Garrett, by contrast, was dressed in head-to-toe black, with leathery wings drooping from his shoulders. They trailed in ragged tatters on the floor behind him. No doubt casting Cassandra as an angel and him as a demon was Camden's idea of a joke. His mask was of plain black leather, a stark contrast to Cassie's elaborate one. Everything about them seemed the exact opposite, but that was fitting. Opposites definitely attracted.
I don't know how you managed it, but you're even more beautiful than usual,
Garrett said. How had he managed to stay away from her as long as he had? When he'd held himself apart from her, the world around him had faded to shades of grey. Now the high colour on Cassie's cheeks was enough to fairly blind him, but he couldn't look away.
Absolutely stunning.
You silver-tongued devil, you. My, but you look positively wicked, Cassandra said as she alighted on the last step. Shall I call you Azazel for the evening?
Why not? If memory serves, he was the demon who supposedly instructed mankind on more efficient methods of sinning. That fits.
Now that she was closer, Garrett realized the neckline of her bodice was cut tantalizingly low. The mounds of her breasts rose above the lace, and tempted him to plunge his hand into the shadowy valley between them. Her lips were rouged a deep red no angel would ever wear.
Perhaps you should be Jezebel for the party. Our costumes seem to have a biblical theme, and I, for one, cannot think of a proper female angel name.
You think I'm a Jezebel? But she was a terrible person. Cassandra turned in a slow circle, inviting him to admire her. Do I look terrible?
Terribly swiveable.
She gave an outraged gasp and swatted him with her fan, but the corners of her lips turned up into an impish smile. Hush! Someone might get the wrong idea about us.
Is there a right idea?
He'd never had a more unconventional relationship with any woman. No one would believe the number of times he'd been with Cassie in her boudoir without actually swiving the lady. He could scarcely believe it himself. I have my mother convinced that we're simply friends.
For that to be believable.
He lowered his voice in case there was someone lurking behind a doorway.
You'd have to convince her I'd been accidentally gelded. No man could see you like this and not want you.
Cassandra dimpled with pleasure, and despite the heavenly effect, she was still as tempting as original sin. Instead of a halo, her hair was dressed in an intricate twist of braids. Holding her coiffure in place, bejeweled pins sparkled in her dark tresses like stars in the night sky. The style bared her nape in such a way that Garrett ached to suckle that tender spot. Then he'd pick every star from her hair and let it fall in waves past her shoulders. Her gown was devised so that it moulded to her curves with every movement. With an imagination as lively as his, she might as well be naked. Enough compliments, she said. You'll turn my head, and I need to keep focused this evening.
Very well. Where have you stashed the pocket watch you'll use for a decoy?
He asked, ready to change the subject for the sake of his crowded trousers. The costumer has sewn a clever little pocket by my right hip, just so. She drew out the watch for a moment, and then slipped it back into its hiding place. It's exactly what's needed, and I simply adore these wings. She craned her neck to look over her shoulder admiringly at them. Don't you think they make me look angelic? Evidently, she wasn't as opposed to compliments as she let on.
You look divine,
he said, as he helped her into a matching pelisse, careful not to cover the spot from which her wings extended. Actually, she looked like sin on a plate, but he wasn't about to burst her bubble. Cassie believed she looked like an angel. Garrett would play along until later this night. One way or another, he was determined to learn the location of her bedchamber. It was high time he visited her again. Maybe she didn't require his assistance. There hadn't been any unexplained fires of late. She must have learned better control without him. But even if she didn't need him, he needed her. Since the damage was done and he'd already had one of his damnable dreams, he was determined to spend more time with her. If he never let her out of his sight, maybe he'd be in a position to interfere when his